was a horrific sight. The body was surgically cut in half, bisected.
The very next day, officers run the victim's prints, and within a few hours, they have a name.
I've had 300 murder investigations in my career, nothing on a level of this kind of horror.
She's young, she's vibrant, she lives.
The gruesome discovery. As Betty Bersinger took her usual morning walk down Norton Avenue, she spotted something strange in an empty lot. At first, she thought it was just a mannequin left behind, maybe from a nearby store. But as she got closer, she realized it was something much more horrifying, a real body cut in half and left out in the open. Her heart raced and she felt a chill down her spine as the shock sunk in. This wasn't some prank or accident. It was a gruesome crime scene. With trembling hands, she hurried to call for help, her mind racing with fear and confusion. Little did she know her discovery would kickstart one of Los Angeles's biggest mysteries, the Black Dahlia case. It's a story that's fascinated people for decades, filled with darkness and unanswered questions that still haunt the city to this day. And in this video, we're going to attempt to solve it.
For me, this is a search for the truth. Searching for the truth of my father and searching for the truth of who killed Elizabeth Short. We're standing just at the location where the body would have been placed. Now, this would have been a large vacant lot. The upper torso was juxtaposed just off to the left, about 12 inches.
The horrific slaying.
Young woman cut down in the prime of her life by this, shadowy creature. It's kind of the archetype of the kind of crime that captures.
Who left her home to come find fame and fortune, maybe?
Elizabeth Short's body was discovered in a state of unimaginable horror. Sliced clean in half at the waist and devoid of blood, the scene was a chilling tableau of mutilation and dread. As investigators examined the grisly remains, they found that not only had her organs been removed, but they had been arranged meticulously nearby, an unsettling detail that added to the morbid nature of the crime. Perhaps most chilling of all were the horrific facial mutilations that deformed Short's once beautiful features. Carved into her face was a gruesome smile known as a Glasgow smile, a twisted detail that spoke volumes about the mind of her assailant. This methodical mutilation and the eerie precision with which it was executed left both investigators and the public reeling in shock and disbelief.
Do you have any idea why the body would be left here?
Because the killer was sure that it would be found fairly quickly, as it was. Clearly, he wasn't trying to hide it.
The investigation unfolds.
The crime scene looked like this. Weed-covered lots north to south. The body on the west side, mid-block.
This was a huge story in 1947. It was headlines for 30 days straight. They had 1,000 law enforcement officers working on the case. This is Los Angeles' most notorious unsolved murder.
As the LAPD scrambled to unravel the mystery surrounding the victim, a breakthrough came with the discovery of Elizabeth Short's fingerprints. These tiny, unique markers quickly unveiled her identity, shedding light on the tragic fate of the young woman whose life had been so brutally cut short. With her identity confirmed, investigators hoped to piece together the events leading up to her untimely demise. However, their efforts to uncover the truth were complicated by a series of enigmatic letters that began to surface, purportedly from the slayer himself. These chilling missives, addressed to the press, taunted authorities with cryptic messages and promises of revealing the truth behind the grisly slaying. In one letter, the sender claimed to be the slayer and boasted of their ability to evade capture. Another letter contained a macabre souvenir, the victim's personal belongings, including her birth certificate, photographs, and business cards, all meticulously cleaned with gasoline, mirroring the methodical nature of the crime. Despite the tantalizing clues contained within these letters, efforts to trace their origin and identify the sender ultimately led to frustrating dead ends. The elusive slayer seemed to revel in their ability to evade justice, leaving investigators grasping at shadows as they struggled to unmask the truth behind one of Los Angeles's most notorious unsolved slayings.
And she's kind of bouncing around from friend to friend, what the youngsters call couch surfing now. So she was really trying to figure out what it is that she wants to do with herself. When she came to LA, Beth describes herself as an aspiring actress. However, there's no evidence that she ever auditioned for any roles.
With an older half-sister. Tell us about this.
Yeah, so my father passes in 99, and you do the things you have to do. And I'm on the phone with my half-sister, who I'd had maybe 10 minutes of conversations in the previous 50 years. And she comes out and she says, well, you know, our father was a suspect in the Black Dahlia murder.
Fidgety, she couldn't sit still. She just seemed very uncomfortable. Red Manley tells police that he dropped Beth off at the Biltmore Hotel in downtown.
Of audio cassettes that she had been recording because she wanted to write a book. And that then all of a sudden the thread starts unraveling for you.
Yeah, I mean, our mother had this storage unit for years and years and years, and she told us, she made sure.
Media sensationalism and speculation.
Night before the murder, Anne said that Elizabeth had called and that Mr. Hansen had been acting nervous and restless. She also said that Elizabeth was going to come over, but she didn't show up.
Yeah, the photo was one of the things that came into my possession, and my father's wife gave it to me, and I said, who is this? And she says, I don't know, somebody your father knew from a long time ago.
Interested in Beth, he never tried to have sex with her. He found Beth to be fair-looking, average.
And it's a spitting image of Elizabeth Short, the Black Dahlia. She was 22 back then, and this was like a 40-year-old, 50-year-old photo of her. And I said, but still, there's no way. Well, maybe he knew her or something.
Hansen does himself no favors with the police. He tells easily disprovable lies. He says he didn't speak to her after he evicted her.
According to Anne, Mark Hansen told her Beth could come and stay there if she needed a place to stay. But when questioned by investigators, Mark Hansen said he turned Beth away and never saw her again.
After Elizabeth Short's slaying, the media went into overdrive. But instead of focusing on the facts, they started spreading wild stories about her. They called her all sorts of names, like a physical and sensual deviant, which just stirred up more gossip and misunderstandings about who she really was. Everywhere you looked, there were rumors flying around. Some said she was involved in intimate bodywork, others claimed she was a lesbo. These stories took over the headlines, pushing aside the real details of the case. But all this gossip didn't help find out what really happened to Elizabeth. Instead, it just made things more confusing and distracted from the important job of finding justice for her. Looking back, it's a reminder of how the media can sometimes get carried away with sensational stories, and how that can make it harder to uncover the truth. In the end, Elizabeth Short's memory got tangled up in all the rumors, making it even harder to separate fact from fiction.
Gosh, it looks like somebody's trying to set this guy up because you just don't send incriminating materials to the police. If you want to do that, you might as well go to the front desk and turn yourself in.
Well, it's quite believable and reasonable to suspect Mark Hansen as the perpetrator of this crime because we know that he was obsessed with Elizabeth.
And then a number of things come into my possession, and I start following it to show he had nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
Eliminate him. And it took me 180 degrees the opposite direction.
Roger,
When the murder occurred, he was at a movie theater opening in Long Beach. And he also had a business associate testify that he was at his home in Redondo Beach until 3 a.m. This would not give him enough time to kill Elizabeth.
Chilling theories.
My name is Steve Hodel. I was born and raised in Los Angeles, California.
Steve Hodel. He grows up to join LAPD.
Spent 24 years with the police.
Moreover, he becomes a homicide detective.
In his investigation, Steve Hodel uncovered a series of alarming connections between his father, George Hodel, and the Black Dahlia slaying.
For me, this is a search for the truth. Searching for the truth of my father and searching for the truth of who killed Elizabeth Short.
George Hodel, a prominent physician and suspected criminal figure, had a troubling past that included allegations of intimate physical misconduct and ties to the Los Angeles underworld.
Here's a photograph of me sitting on Father's lap.
And that's you here?
Yeah.
And that's your father?
Right.
Hodel's background as a doctor raised suspicions, particularly due to the precise nature of the dissection performed on Elizabeth Short's body, which mirrored surgical techniques. Furthermore, Hodel's association with avant-garde artists and intellectuals in Los Angeles during the 1940s added to the intrigue. suggesting a possible motive rooted in a twisted sense of artistic expression or psychological pathology. On the other hand, Pugh Eatwell's theory focused on Leslie Dillon, a man briefly considered a suspect by police during the initial investigation. Eatwell proposed that Dillon, a bellhop with a troubled past, was hired by Mark Hansen, a nightclub owner with whom Short had been acquainted, to carry out the slaying. Hansen's infatuation with Short and Dillon's previous employment as a mortician's assistant lent credence to this theory. Additionally, Eatwell uncovered evidence suggesting that Dillon had inside knowledge of the crime scene details, further implicating him in the slaying. The intricate web of relationships and motives woven by Eatwell painted a picture of a calculated conspiracy orchestrated by Hansen, with Dillon as the unwitting perpetrator. Mystery solved. In this video, we'll share with you our theory of what happened, the most likely one, based on the social and cultural context of 1940s Los Angeles. In this theory, Elizabeth Short's slaying is seen as a product of the city's glamorous yet dark underbelly, where ambition clashed with desperation, and where individuals were both propelled by dreams of stardom and consumed by the shadows of exploitation and vice. Considering Short's aspirations as an actress and her proximity to Hollywood's glittering facade, it's likely that she encountered individuals who promised fame and fortune but harbored darker intentions. The media's sensationalized portrayal of Short, branding her as a sensual and physical deviant and perpetuating obscene rumors, would have further fueled the predatory instincts of those seeking to exploit vulnerable young women. Moreover, the involvement of figures like George Hodel and Mark Hansen adds a layer of complexity to the narrative. Hodel's connections to the city's elite and his alleged ties to criminal activities suggest the possibility of a higher-level conspiracy, while Hansen's role as a nightclub owner implies access to a network of individuals with questionable motives. In this theory, Leslie Dillon emerges as a pawn in a larger game orchestrated by individuals like Hansen, who saw Short as a means to an end, a pawn to be sacrificed in pursuit of their own agendas. Dillon's background as a bellhop and his association with Hansen make him a plausible candidate for the role of the slayer, perhaps manipulated into committing the crime under false pretenses. No matter how likely, these are still speculations. What really happened, we may never know. While the Black Dahlia case remains shrouded in mystery, one thing's for sure: its sinister tale will haunt our imaginations for a long time. Signing off for now. Tune in next time for another riveting episode.